Hey guys, Manipulation here with a quick hotkey video. The first thing I want to go over as far as the hotkeys is actually my personal setup, because I do have a few minor differences with the standard layout. So the way to find this is to go into your options, and then there's this tab down here called hotkeys. So as you see, mine is just set to Kyle, so that way whichever region or whatever I'm on, I can go to it. Now, I don't really mess with any of the hotkeys as far as races go, but I do have some differences in global. So as you can see in unit management, I have the select all army units unbound. I would describe myself as a slightly aggressive player, and I like to do, if I'm playing Terran, like multi-prong drops or whatever. And having this F2 key bound, if you become reliant on it, can be a really big issue. So if you can, I would suggest trying to get used to playing without it. I just think it makes you a little bit of a better player. I have this unbound. I'm not 100% sure what that did to begin with, to be honest. But here are some of the key things that I have changed. My control groups. Alright, so control 9, I have it set to F1. I think F1 is set to your idle workers. I just unbind that and set control F1, and the way you do this is you click it and then you can create it, like here, I'll get rid of it. So you add an alternate, press the desired key, control +1, and then it sets it. So now whenever I hit control 1 in the game, it will set my 9 group for control, well, I wanted F1, but control F1. So now anytime I click F1, it will select my 9th hotkey. But something important to note is you actually need to be able to select it that way. So like if you don't come down here to select control group and put F1 as a way to select it, if you hit F1, nothing will happen. You'll actually have to hit 9 to use it. And I do believe that's pretty important. And go ahead and set Q for this. Or no, I won't, because that unbinds something. I'm not sure what it unbinds. Let's go ahead and set this for F2. Since I don't use F2, maybe I can set this for like my mothership core or something. We'll see. We will see. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Alright, so 6 unbound keys. Are you sure you want to hit save? I would hit no and check to make sure. Birth queen. Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that undone. So I guess. Control group 1. Seems I unbound that too. Alright, so if you mess it up, it's pretty simple. You just click on the unbound thing, double click it, and then you can fix whatever you broke. So that's pretty much that. I don't really play Terran, so I'm not too concerned about that. And hit OK. Your active profile will be updated, and then that'll be all. Hit accept, and now you have your new hotkey layout. Alright guys, so I just loaded up a bot game for the Protoss hotkey tutorial, and so for the first part, obviously you want to hotkey your Nexus, and generally I hotkey every Nexus to 1. Personally, I am under the influence that if you can hotkey your Nexuses to like 5 or 6, that's honestly way better, because you want to keep that hotkeys 1 through 3 open for your army, but developing a habit is really hard to. It's really hard to break a hotkey habit once you set it. So 1 through 3 is pretty much always production for me. And Protoss is very different from the other races in the fact that you get a free hotkey, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. So when you get your gateway, you're gonna hotkey it. So I put it to 2 because that's what I'm used to. Get my gas, and now I'm gonna scout with this probe, which I will hotkey to 3. So when using hotkeys, if you double tap 2, double tap 3, double tap 1, it'll take you to whatever you're clicking on, right? So that's important to note. But anyway, so I'm gonna just keep making stuff for now, because I kind of just want to be able to show you different hotkeys. That's pretty much gonna be the sole purpose of this video. Looking through Protoss right now, the main reason you want all of your Nexuses on 1, because really the Nexus has 2 purposes. It's to make probes and it's to chrono boost, and having it on a separate hotkey kind of hinders any of those things. So, and the cyber core is not really something you need to hotkey, because well, it's got one thing that it's really used for. Unless you're going sky toss, you're pretty much just gonna get cyber or warp gate technology. Alright, so I can scout his base now. I can shift, click around, see what he's doing. Doesn't matter. Alright, so I get my second nexus down, and then I go ahead and add that to 1. So now whenever I press 1, both of my nexuses go to the same thing. So now whenever I rally probes, it rallies both nexuses. So that's something you got to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and add another gateway for experimental purposes and try and kind of explain a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and get that chrono boost so that way I can get to the point of the free hotkey. Alright, so now I want another pylon so I can actually make stuff because that's useful. Alright, so the thing I do as Protoss is whenever I make, let's say I'm making a Stargate, I'll put that on 2. Because once warp gate finishes, you can press W to get to your warp gates. Now there's a couple of interesting things that people do with that I will bring up once I get to that point. But until then, I'm just gonna show you guys what I mean. And then, so I'm gonna put down a forge just because you might want to ask, well, you said you use F1 for your upgrades. What do you mean? So what you do is you select your forge, control F1, and now 9 is set to your forge. So basically 9 is not really a hotkey you're going to reach all the way over and put your army on. So having F1 set to something basic is pretty smart in my opinion. So I have F1 for my upgrades, and as you can see, every time something finishes, it pops up here. So I'll come down here, I'll click upgrade ground weapons, and then whenever this finishes, up here a little notification will say research complete. And if I press F1, I can just pull up my forge again and select the next upgrade and get it going. So now that I have a second nexus, I can just and then I can chrono boost 2 things at once. Just pretty simple stuff, really, but all important to note. And now, pretty much as a Protoss player, you're really only going to use one type of, one type of building. For the most part, you're not going to make Stargate and Robo stuff unless it's maybe PvP. So you can hotkey them both to 1, and you can tab through. So like right now I can make stuff from the starport, I hit tab, right now I can make stuff from the Robo. Typically you're only going to use 1 though. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn these into warp gates. And what you can see, upon the completion of it turning to a warp gate, a second little hotkey turns right here. You press W and it selects all of your warp gates. So let's say I'm over here. Let's pretend I'm attacking over here and I've got a pylon or something. I can just come back, warp in, and then right like that I can hit Shift 3 and add these to a hotkey. So okay, now you're asking, what did people say about like the random hotkeys? So one thing I noticed that MC does whenever he streams, he takes all of these gateways while they're being morphed in, and he adds them to a hotkey. And someone said, MC, W is a free warp gate hotkey. Why don't you just use that? And in the straightest face, he looked at the camera and said, "Are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to transform them whenever I'm not looking?" Okay, so you might be asking, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, this upgrade's gonna finish. So upgrade complete. Now I press F1 and I just select my next upgrade. Now I'm back to my army. So I'm just waiting for these to finish up so I can show you kind of what he was telling us. So as you can see, these are finishing up. And let's pretend I'm over here, right? Like I'm not at my base, I'm not able to see it. I just click 3, which has all the gateways finishing, and I just tap G and they all turn to warp gates. And then as soon as they finish, it adds to this number right here, and I can just press W and I can warp stuff in. So it, in my opinion, is a very good thing to do. I'm not really sure what number you'd want to put that on. It's all preference, I would suppose. But let's say you make a mistake like this. You have your units and gateways in the same hotkey. You don't really have an issue with that per se, but I mean at the same time, like if you're trying to count your units or whatever, seeing 12 right there might throw you off. So an easy way to get multiple things out of a hotkey, say like you just want the gateways out, hit Control, hit Shift, and then click the gateways, and it removes all of those out of it. And then hit Control 3 again, and this guy's going to attack me, I suppose. But what do you do if, say, you add your Nexus, your Forge? Let's say you just fucking add everything, alright? Obviously, you don't want all of this in one hotkey, because now you're rallying probes and God knows what else. Alright, so just if you want to remove one thing, hit shift, click, and remove it. Now you hit control 3. And then same for the warp gates, control shift, click, remove it. And you're just going to shift click all of those out. Pretty much. That's just all you got to do for that. Now, probably should have had this going. But basically, if you're going to have a spellcaster, so now I've got the mothership core, right? And the mothership core takes priority over stalkers. So if I'm trying to blink, I'm not going to be able to blink. Like, I can't blink my units right now because the mothership core, that and I don't own blink upgrade, obviously. So one thing you can do is you can shift click the mothership core, or you can, if you want it all selected, just hit tab. And then you still have all of the units selected, but now you can blink units back and stuff. And then that's pretty much it as far as, you know, Protoss upgrade hotkeys go. Protoss kind of has the simple upgrades in my opinion. And if you want, you can add like the Twilight. So you can just, you're fighting, right? Hit F1. You want to research blink? Hit F1 tab, and then you can get that going. And it's all pretty much simple stuff. And then you've always got W for your warp gates. You don't ever have to worry about hotkeying those if you don't want to. Now, of course, some people do hotkey just because maybe they play Terran or something and they always have their production on 3. Well, that's fine. You can do that. There's no reason not to. But I would suggest just going ahead and getting used to using W. So whatever hotkey you'd have your gateways on, you can just have like a Stargate and a Robo on, for example. And that's pretty much going to be it for this video. The Protoss ones, like I said, for me, maybe it's just that I play the race, so it's, to me it seems really simple, but I just don't think Protoss really has that many interesting hotkeys. So if you have any questions, please leave them in a comment below, and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it.